In 479 BC, a woman was dragged into a room inside the Persian royal palace. What was done to her body was so extreme that the ancient historian who recorded it, a man who had spent his life documenting wars, mass executions, and ritual sacrifice across 3 continents, paused before writing it down. She was not a criminal. She was not a prisoner of war. She was not a slave. She was royalty, the wife of the king's own brother, a woman from one of the most protected bloodlines on earth. And the order did not come from the king, it came from the queen. But the reason it happened, the specific traceable chain of decisions that put this woman in that room, started years earlier, on a battlefield 1,000 miles away, with a king who had just suffered the most public humiliation of his life and could not accept what he had become. Before this is over, a sacred oath will be weaponized. A handwoven robe will function as a confession no one can deny. A royal birthday will become an inescapable trap, and an entire branch of the Persian royal family will be erased from existence. Not by a foreign army, not by revolution. From the inside, by the people who shared the same blood. And the man who caused all of it will be murdered in his own bed by the men he trusted to protect him while he slept. This is how it happened. Crimson Historians covers the parts of history that mainstream sources leave out. And this story is one of the reasons why. If that is the kind of content you want to see more of, subscribe now. It is free, and it directly determines whether stories like this one keep getting made. To understand what happened inside that palace, you need to understand what happened outside of it first. In 480 BC, Xerxes I launched the largest military operation the ancient world had ever seen. Even conservative modern estimates place his combined forces at over 200,000 men. For context, most Greek city-states could field armies in the low thousands. Sparta's entire military citizen class was fewer than 10,000. Xerxes was not invading Greece, he was erasing it. He had inherited the campaign from his father, Darius I, who had been defeated at Marathon in 490 BC and died before launching a second attempt. Xerxes took the project personally. He spent 4 years preparing. He ordered a canal dug through the peninsula of Mount Athos, so his fleet would not repeat the route that had wrecked his father's ships. He had pontoon bridges built across the Hellespont. When a storm destroyed the first set, Xerxes ordered the water itself whipped and branded with hot irons. That detail is often presented as madness. It was not. It was theatre. Xerxes ruled an empire of dozens of ethnic groups and languages. His authority rested on the perception that he operated on a different plane than ordinary men. Punishing the sea was a message to his own army, and for a time the message held. His forces crossed into Europe. At Thermopylae, a Greek rearguard led by 300 Spartans held a narrow pass for 3 days before being outflanked and destroyed. Xerxes pushed south. Athens was evacuated and burned. Greece appeared to be falling. Then came Salamis. The Greek fleet lured the Persian navy into a narrow strait. The passage was too tight for Persian ships to maneuver. Vessels collided with each other. Command signals could not reach the outer formations. The Greeks tore the fleet apart. Xerxes watched from a golden throne, positioned on the hillside above the strait. He had placed it there deliberately, so the fleet would know the king was watching, so that every captain, every oarsman, every marine would understand that their performance was being observed by the man who could elevate or destroy them with a word. Now that same throne forced him to watch as his ships rammed each other, capsized and burned. When the battle ended, the Greek fleet controlled the strait. The supply line connecting the Persian army to Asia was severed. Without the navy, the land campaign could not be sustained through winter. Xerxes made a decision that would define everything that followed. He left. He did not stay to regroup. He did not attempt to rebuild the fleet. He withdrew from Greece entirely, leaving his general Mardonius behind, with a land army of roughly 80,000. That army fought on for another year before being destroyed at the Battle of Plataea in 479 BC. Xerxes never returned to Greece. He never launched another Western campaign, and that fact, the withdrawal, the silence that followed it, the 14 years of inward retreat, is where this story actually begins. Xerxes was not deposed. The Persian Empire was still the largest political entity on earth, stretching from Libya to the Indus Valley, containing roughly a third of the world's population. But empires do not run on territory, they run on perception. Xerxes had crossed the Hellespont with the explicit promise of conquest. He returned without it, in a court system where the king's authority was linked to divine favor, where the Achaemenid monarch was presented as the chosen instrument of Ahura Mazda, the god of truth and order. Military failure was not just a setback, it was a theological problem. No one said this openly. Persian court culture did not permit direct criticism of the king. But the behavioral shifts were visible. Governors consolidated regional power. Tribute payments slowed. The network of royal informants reported increasing independence among provincial administrators. Inside the palace, the change was different. Xerxes retreated from military campaigns entirely. For the remaining 14 years of his reign, he launched no major operations. He turned to construction, expanding Persepolis, commissioning elaborate reliefs, emphasizing his titles and divine connection. He also turned to the internal life of the court. A king who has lost the external stage often tries to reclaim authority on the internal one. And Xerxes' internal stage was a palace filled with family, servants and nobles, whose positions depended entirely on his favor. One person in particular caught his attention. Xerxes had a brother named Masistes. Masistes was not a peripheral figure. He had commanded troops during the Greek campaign and governed Bactria, the strategically critical province covering parts of modern Afghanistan and Central Asia. He was royalty by blood, military by career, and politically significant by position. He was also married, and Xerxes wanted his wife. This is recorded directly in Book 9 of Herodotus' Histories. Xerxes pursued the wife of Masistes. She refused. The king of the Achaemenid Empire, the man who controlled the largest army, the largest treasury, the largest administrative network in the world. And this woman, whose name Herodotus does not even record, said no. Xerxes did not force the issue. Not out of moral hesitation. Herodotus gives no indication ethics played any part. The reason was strategic. Masistes had troops. He had regional authority. He had the loyalty of one of the most militarily capable provinces in the empire. Taking his wife by force would be an act of aggression against Masistes himself. And that would create a problem Xerxes could not afford. Not after Greece, not with the court already watching. So the king changed strategy. He would not go directly at what he wanted. He would rearrange the board until what he wanted was within reach. The tool he used was marriage. He arranged for his eldest son, Crown Prince Darius, to marry Masistes' daughter, a woman named Artinte. Royal families in the ancient Near East married within themselves routinely. The Achaemenid dynasty, in particular, practiced endogamy, keeping bloodlines, wealth, and alliances consolidated within the ruling house. No one would have questioned the match. It looked like standard dynastic maintenance. But the purpose was not consolidation. The purpose was proximity. By marrying Artante into the crown prince's household, Xerxes brought Masistes' entire family physically closer to the royal court, closer to the palace, closer to him. The original target, the mother, was now accessible through the social obligations that came with having a daughter in the king's household: family visits, court ceremonies, seasonal relocations between Susa and Persepolis. Xerxes had engineered a reason for her to be near him without anyone suspecting his motives. But proximity has a way of rearranging intentions. Bridges carry traffic in both directions, and the access Xerxes had created produced an outcome he had not planned for. Xerxes' fixation morphed. It shifted from the mother to the daughter, Artainte, the woman who had just married his own son. Herodotus does not narrate a seduction, he records the result. Xerxes and Artainte began an affair. His son's wife, his brother's daughter, his daughter-in-law. Every one of those relationships carried its own category of violation: familial, political, dynastic. And unlike her mother, Artainte did not refuse. Why? The honest answer is we do not know. Herodotus does not give her an interior voice. She may have desired the king. She may have feared him. She may have seen an opportunity. In a court where a woman's security depended entirely on male favor, proximity to the most powerful man alive was not a sentimental decision. It was a survival calculation. Or she may have had no real choice at all. The record does not tell us. What the record tells us is that the affair continued in secrecy. Over a period Herodotus does not specify. The court either did not notice or chose not to see. In palaces where the wrong observation could end a life, strategic blindness was a professional skill. But secrecy requires discipline, and Xerxes was not disciplined. He made a promise he could not take back. During one of their encounters, Xerxes swore a royal oath to Artainte. She could ask for anything she wanted, and he would grant it. In the Achaemenid system, royal oaths carried religious authority. They invoked Ahura Mazda, the supreme deity whose favor legitimized the king's rule. Breaking such an oath was not embarrassing. It was an act of cosmic disorder. It undermined the very framework that made the king the king. Xerxes made the oath expecting a manageable request: gold, jewelry, an estate. Artainte asked for the robe he was wearing. This was a specific, identifiable garment, handwoven by Queen Amestris as a personal gift to the king. The court knew this. When Xerxes wore it, it communicated a message visible to everyone. The queen made this for me. We are united. If Artainte wore it, every layer of that message inverted. The queen's own creation, on another woman's body. No room for interpretation. No possibility of denial. The robe was a confession sewn into silk. Xerxes understood immediately. He tried to undo it. He offered Artainte cities. Real revenue-generating cities she could govern. He offered unlimited gold. Herodotus records that he offered her an army under her personal command. Artainte refused everything. She wanted the robe, only the robe. There are two readings of this moment. The first, Artainte was reckless. She wanted the most impressive object she could see and did not calculate what it would cost. The second, she understood exactly what she was doing. The robe was not a trophy. It was a mechanism. As long as the affair was secret, she was disposable. The moment it became visible, she became a fact the court had to accommodate. Herodotus does not tell us which reading is correct. Xerxes handed over the robe because a king could override a law, a king could overturn a sentence. But in Persia, a king could not override a sacred oath. The robe changed hands, and the countdown began. Amestris saw the robe on Artainte. She did not scream. She did not confront. She did not go to Xerxes. She waited. Amestris was not simply the king's wife. She was the daughter of Otanes, one of the 7 noble conspirators who had overthrown the false king Smerdis and placed Darius I on the throne. Her political position was inherited, independent of Xerxes. She had alliances among the old nobility that predated her marriage. She had her own network of informants, her own leverage within the court, and her position rested on one principle. The queen could not be publicly humiliated without response. This was not vanity. In the Persian court, where dozens of women competed for the king's attention, a queen's power was maintained through the visible understanding that challenging her carried consequences. The moment that understanding collapsed, every ambitious woman, every rival family, every faction looking for a new patron would begin repositioning. Amestris did not see the robe and feel betrayed. She saw the robe and identified a threat. And then she made a decision that reveals more about court power than almost anything else in Herodotus. She did not target Artainte. She targeted Artainte's mother, the wife of Mesistes. Herodotus says Amestris believed the mother had orchestrated the affair, that she had pushed Artainte toward the king to elevate their branch of the family. Whether Amestris genuinely believed this or simply found it useful to believe, whether this was suspicion or justification, the record cannot tell us. What the record tells us is that she did not act immediately. She did not act impulsively. She looked at the calendar, and she waited for one specific day. Once a year, on the king's birthday, Persian custom required the king to grant any request made during the royal feast. This was not optional. It was embedded in the ritual structure of the monarchy. Refusing a birthday request, especially one made by the queen before the assembled court, would be a visible violation of tradition, severe enough to undermine the king's own legitimacy. Amestris had waited for this day. During the feast, before the nobles, the priests, the military commanders, the provincial governors, she made her request. She asked for the wife of Mesistes to be handed over to her. Everyone in that room understood what that meant. Xerxes understood what it meant. He tried to stop it. He pleaded with Amestris privately, pulling her aside during the feast, trying to redirect her request, offering alternatives. He proposed other gifts, other satisfactions, other forms of recognition.